The auctioneer's gavel struck the wooden block with finality, the sharp crack echoing through the crowded pavilion. "No sale! Next horse!" His voice boomed over the disappointed murmurs that rippled through the audience. The sleek black thoroughbred was led away, its hooves clattering against the concrete floor, making way for the next animal. 14-year-old Emma Hartley leaned forward in her seat, her heart racing with anticipation. She'd been waiting all day for lot number 67. Her grandfather gently placed his weathered hand on her shoulder. "Remember what I told you, Em. Don't get your hopes up," he cautioned, his voice soft but firm. "We're just here to look." Emma nodded absently, her eyes fixed on the entrance gate. She knew Grandpa Joe couldn't afford a horse, not with the medical bills that had piled up after Grandma's passing, not with the farm barely breaking even. But still, he'd brought her to the auction because she'd begged, because she'd promised just to look, because her 15th birthday was approaching, and this was the closest thing to a celebration they could manage this year. "Lot number 67, announced the auctioneer, adjusting his glasses as he squinted at his notes. 4-year-old chestnut gelding, some training, good bloodlines. Emma's breath caught as the horse limped into the ring. The magnificent chestnut coat gleamed under the harsh lights, but the animal's head hung low, and its right front leg clearly couldn't bear full weight. The handler tugged roughly at the lead rope, forcing the horse to move faster than it comfortably could. Emma winced, as if she could feel the animal's pain herself. "What we have here is a project horse, folks," the auctioneer continued, his enthusiasm notably diminished. "Starting bid at $500. Do I hear $500? The pavilion fell silent. Potential buyers exchanged glances, some shaking their heads, others smirking. Nobody raised their hand or nodded. "Come on, folks, he's got good lines. Grandson of Blue Thunder. Just needs some work. $400? $300? More silence. Emma's heart ached for the beautiful animal standing alone in the center of the ring, surrounded by judging eyes yet utterly abandoned. "Last call. $200? Anyone? This is a steal at $200. When no bids came, the auctioneer sighed. "No sale. Take him back." The handler yanked the lead rope harshly, causing the horse to stumble slightly as he turned. A few spectators laughed. Emma felt tears welling in her eyes. "What happens to him now?" she whispered to her grandfather. Joe Hartley's expression darkened. "Probably the kill pen, sweetheart. No one wants a lame horse. It's just business." Emma looked up sharply, horror washing over her face. "Kill pen? You mean they'll—" "It's how it goes sometimes," he said gently. "Not every horse gets a happy ending." Emma watched as the chestnut disappeared through the exit gate, his beautiful tail dragging in the dirt. Something twisted in her chest, a feeling so powerful she could barely breathe. "Grandpa, I need to use the bathroom," she blurted out, already standing. Before he could respond, she was pushing past knees and boots, mumbling apologies as she rushed toward the exit. But Emma didn't head for the bathrooms. Instead, she followed the path she'd seen the handlers take with unsold horses. Behind the main pavilion, a series of temporary stalls housed animals waiting their turn, or, like the chestnut, those that had failed to sell. She spotted him immediately, already being loaded onto a trailer with peeling paint and the words, "Meat Processing Transport," stenciled on the side. "Wait!" Emma called out, running toward the two men pushing the reluctant horse up the ramp. "Please wait!" They turned, annoyed. The older man, wearing a sweat-stained cowboy hat, spat tobacco juice onto the ground. "This area's off limits, kid. Go back to your parents." "Please," Emma panted, stopping just short of them. "That horse, I want to buy him." The men exchanged amused glances. "This ain't a pet store, girl. This one's damaged goods, headed to the processing plant." Emma stood taller, trying to appear older than her 14 years. "How much?" "I'll pay what the auction wanted. $200. The younger man laughed. "We get paid by the pound and he's a big boy. Worth more to us as meat." Emma felt sick, but refused to back down. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the envelope containing every dollar she'd saved over the past 2 years. Birthday money, allowance for farm chores, earnings from helping neighbors with their gardens. She'd been saving for a used saddle, dreaming of the day she might have her own horse to ride it. "I have $347, she said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "It's all yours if you let me have him." The older man's eyes narrowed as he looked at the envelope. "You serious? This nag's got a bum leg. Probably never ride him." "I don't care," Emma replied, her voice cracking slightly. "Please." After a moment's consideration, the man snatched the envelope from her hand and quickly counted the bills. With a nod to his partner, he handed her the lead rope. "He's your problem now. Don't come crying when you realize you've wasted your money." As they walked away, Emma approached the chestnut gelding slowly. The horse regarded her with suspicious eyes, his ears flicking nervously. Up close, she could see how thin he was beneath that gleaming coat, how his muscles trembled from standing so long on 3 good legs. "It's okay," she whispered, gently stroking his neck. "I'm Emma, and you're going to be okay now. Emma Marie Hartley." She turned to see her grandfather striding toward her, his face a storm of worry and exasperation. He stopped short when he saw the horse. "What have you done?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "I bought him, Grandpa," Emma said, straightening her shoulders. "With my own money." Joe closed his eyes briefly, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Sweetheart, we talked about this. We can't afford another mouth to feed, especially one that size. And that leg—" "They were going to kill him," Emma interrupted, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "I couldn't let that happen. I'll work extra jobs. I'll skip lunch at school. I'll do whatever it takes." Joe looked at his granddaughter, then at the horse who was now gently nuzzling her shoulder as if sensing he'd found an ally. The old man's expression softened. "You're just like your mother," he sighed, a mixture of pride and resignation in his voice. "Never could walk away from something broken." Emma stepped forward and hugged her grandfather fiercely. "Thank you," she whispered. "I promise I won't let you down." "You never do, kiddo," he replied, patting her back. "But this horse is your responsibility. Every bit of it." "I understand," she said solemnly. Joe examined the horse more carefully, running experienced hands down the animal's injured leg. The horse flinched, but didn't pull away. "Old injury," Joe muttered. "Probably a tendon. Might never heal completely." "But he'll live?" Emma asked hopefully. "With proper care, sure. But Emma," he looked at her seriously, "don't go dreaming he'll ever be more than a pasture pet. A horse like this won't ever run again, let alone jump or compete." Emma nodded, but something in her eyes suggested she wasn't fully accepting his assessment. Joe recognized that look, the same determined gleam his late daughter used to get when someone told her something was impossible. "What are you going to name him?" he asked instead of arguing further. Emma studied the chestnut gelding thoughtfully, noticing how, despite his injury and mistreatment, he held his head with a certain dignity. "Phoenix," she decided, "because he's going to rise from the ashes." Joe just shook his head, knowing better than to discourage her. "Let's figure out how to get Phoenix home. I didn't exactly plan on bringing a horse back in my pickup truck today." As her grandfather walked off to make arrangements, Emma stood with her hand on Phoenix's neck, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing. For the first time since entering his stall, the horse relaxed, lowering his head to her level. "We're going to prove them all wrong," she whispered, making a promise to the horse and to herself. "You and me, Phoenix. This is just the beginning." What Emma couldn't know then was how prophetic those words would be, how this broken horse would not only change her life but the lives of everyone in their small farming community. She couldn't foresee the obstacles they would face, the doubters they would silence, or the unexpected journey that awaited them both. But standing there in the dusty back lot of the auction house, one hand on a horse nobody wanted, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced since before her parents' accident 2 years ago: purpose. The journey home was complicated. Grandpa Joe had to call in a favor from Mr. Peterson, a neighbor who owned a small horse trailer. It took nearly an hour for him to arrive, during which Emma never left Phoenix's side, talking to him softly and offering him sips of water from a bucket she'd found near the stalls. Getting Phoenix into the trailer proved challenging. The horse balked at the ramp, clearly remembering his near trip to the slaughterhouse. It took patient coaxing from Emma and gentle pressure from Joe and Mr. Peterson to finally get him loaded. Even then, Phoenix trembled so badly that Emma climbed into the trailer and rode with him, singing softly to keep him calm during the bumpy 20-mile journey home. When they finally arrived at the Hartley farm, a modest operation with more weeds than crops these days, the sun was already setting, painting the worn buildings in forgiving golden light. The old stable, which had stood empty since they'd sold their last horse 3 years ago, would now have a resident again. The first week with Phoenix was harder than Emma had anticipated. The gelding was not only physically damaged, but emotionally scarred as well. He startled at sudden movements, pinned his ears when approached from behind, and sometimes refused to eat if anyone was watching him. Joe had given Emma the smallest stall in the barn, reasoning that less space meant less bedding to change and less area to clean. "You bought him. You care for him," he reminded her daily, though his gruff reminders were often followed by subtle assistance, a fresh bucket of water appearing, a flake of hay mysteriously added to Phoenix's supply while Emma was at school. Every morning, Emma woke at 5 a.m. to tend to Phoenix before catching the school bus. Every afternoon, she rushed home to change his bandages, apply the liniment Dr. Brenner, the local veterinarian who'd agreed to examine Phoenix as a favor to Joe, had prescribed, and clean his stall. Her homework was often completed by flashlight in the barn, sitting on an overturned bucket while Phoenix munched hay nearby. On the 10th day, Emma arrived home to find her grandfather in Phoenix's stall, running his hands carefully over the horse's injured leg. The chestnut stood quietly, his eyes half closed as Joe worked. "His fever's completely gone," Joe said without looking up as Emma entered, "and the swelling's down by half." Emma smiled, setting down her backpack. "Dr. Brenner said he's responding well to the antibiotics." Joe straightened, wincing slightly as his old knees protested. "I've been thinking. This stall's too small for long-term recovery. Horse needs to move around a bit, build strength." Emma's eyes widened. She'd been hoping to convince her grandfather of exactly this, but hadn't found the right moment. "The south paddock would be perfect. It's small enough that he won't overexert himself, but big enough to move freely." Joe nodded, a hint of a smile tugging at his mouth. "Already fixed the fence this morning. Thought we might move him over there tomorrow." "Oh, Grandpa!" Emma threw her arms around him. "Thank you." "Don't get too excited," he warned, though he returned the hug. "Moving around is one thing. Being sound enough to ride is another matter entirely." "I know," Emma said, but the spark in her eyes said otherwise. The next day was Saturday, and Emma spent the morning preparing the south paddock. She removed every rock, filled in divots that might trip an unsteady horse, and made sure the water trough was scrubbed clean. By noon, everything was ready. Leading Phoenix to his new home proved trickier than expected. The gelding was reluctant to leave the security of his stall. When Emma finally coaxed him into the sunlight, he stood blinking for several moments, as if he'd forgotten what the outdoors looked like. His nostrils flared as he took in the scents of grass, earth, and freedom. "Go on, boy," Emma encouraged, removing his halter once they were inside the paddock. "It's all yours." Phoenix took a hesitant step forward, testing his injured leg carefully. Then another. His movement was awkward, unbalanced, but as he ventured further from Emma, a transformation seemed to occur. He lifted his head higher, his ears pricked forward with interest. And then, to Emma's astonishment, he gave a small buck, just a slight kick of his hind legs, before settling into a hobbling trot around the perimeter. "Would you look at that?" Joe murmured from beside her. "There might be some spirit left in that broken-down nag after all." Emma beamed. "I told you, Grandpa. He's special." For the next 3 weeks, Phoenix's life settled into a new routine. Mornings and nights in his stall, days in the paddock where he gradually gained strength and confidence. His ribs, once sharply visible beneath his dull coat, began to fill out thanks to the special feed mix Emma bought with her lunch money and the part-time job she'd taken at the local grocery store. But his leg remained a problem. Though less swollen, it still couldn't bear his full weight. Dr. Brenner, during his second visit, shook his head regretfully. "The tendon damage is extensive," he explained to Emma, who listened with fierce concentration. "There's calcification forming. See this hardness here? That's scar tissue. He's lucky to be walking as well as he is." "But he will get better, right?" Emma pressed. "He just needs more time." Dr. Brenner exchanged a look with Joe before answering carefully. "Emma, I think we need to be realistic. Phoenix will probably always have a significant limp. He can live a comfortable life as a pasture pet, but riding him would be cruel and dangerous for both of you." Emma's jaw tightened, but she nodded respectfully. After the vet left, Joe found her sitting on the paddock fence, watching Phoenix graze. "You heard what Doc Brenner said," he began. "I heard," Emma replied without looking at him. "But he doesn't know Phoenix like I do. You see how much he's improved already." Joe sighed, settling his worn frame beside her on the fence. "Emma, honey, I understand getting attached, but sometimes loving something means accepting its limitations." "That's not what Mom would say," Emma countered, finally turning to face him. "She always told me that limitations are just challenges we haven't overcome yet." A flash of pain crossed Joe's weathered face at the mention of his daughter. "Your mother was the most determined soul I ever knew, but even she couldn't change certain realities." "I'm not trying to change reality, Grandpa. I'm just not accepting that Phoenix's story is already written." Emma jumped down from the fence. "He deserves someone who believes in him." As summer approached, Emma's determination only grew stronger. School ended, giving her more time to dedicate to Phoenix's rehabilitation. She researched equine physical therapy online at the public library, printed exercises and treatment plans, and adapted them as best she could with limited resources. Every day, she led Phoenix through a series of gentle movements, lifting each leg, holding, releasing, encouraging him to step over low poles, walking him in gradually widening circles. She fashioned support wraps from old bandages and applied cold therapy using bags of frozen peas when his leg showed signs of strain. Joe watched this routine with mixed emotions. He worried about his granddaughter investing so much of herself in what he considered a hopeless cause, yet he couldn't help admiring her dedication. In Phoenix's presence, Emma seemed to come alive in a way he hadn't seen since before the accident that took her parents. The grieving, withdrawn girl was being replaced by a focused young woman with purpose burning in her eyes. One evening in early July, Joe came home from town to find Emma leading Phoenix around the larger east paddock, which he definitely hadn't given permission for, with a determined expression. The horse was still limping but moving more fluidly than before. Most surprising was the change in his demeanor. The fearful, dejected animal from the auction was now alert, responsive, ears pricked forward as he followed Emma's gentle guidance. "What's going on here?" Joe called out, approaching the fence. Emma turned, a flash of guilt crossing her face before she lifted her chin defiantly. "I'm expanding his exercise area. The south paddock was getting too small." Joe murmured, studying the pair. "And does Dr. Brenner know you're pushing his recovery this hard?" "Dr. Brenner hasn't seen him in 3 weeks," Emma replied. "Phoenix is stronger now. He needs more space." Joe was about to lecture her on overexertion and reasonable expectations when he noticed something. Despite the added distance, Phoenix's limp seemed less pronounced as they completed their circle. The horse moved with purpose, his eyes fixed on Emma as if she were the center of his universe. "Has anyone else been out to see him?" Joe asked, his tone softening. Emma shook her head. "Just us. Mind if I take a closer look at that leg?" Emma led Phoenix to the fence, where Joe carefully examined the formerly injured limb. The hardened scar tissue was still evident, but the swelling had decreased dramatically. When he pressed on certain spots that had previously caused the horse to flinch, Phoenix remained calm. "Huh," Joe said, straightening up. Well, I'll be damned. What? Emma asked eagerly. Nothing, Joe replied, but a small smile played at the corners of his mouth. Just thinking your mom would be mighty proud of your stubbornness right about now. Emma's eyes glistened with unexpected tears. It was the highest compliment her grandfather could give. Keep up the good work, Joe added gruffly, turning back toward the house. But don't push him too hard, you hear me? Rome wasn't built in a day. Yes, sir, Emma called after him, before turning back to Phoenix with a wide smile. Did you hear that, boy? We're making progress. As she led Phoenix back to his stall that evening, Emma couldn't help feeling a surge of hope. Phoenix might still have a long road ahead, but for the first time, she wasn't the only one who believed recovery was possible. By mid-July, whispers about Emma Hartley's rescue project had spread through their small farming community of Oak Ridge. The rumors ranged from sympathetic to scornful. Some admired the young girl's dedication, others called it a foolish waste of time and money. Emma heard the comments when she worked her shifts at Clayton's grocery, noticed the sidelong glances when she purchased specialized supplements she could barely afford. Mind your own business, she'd mutter under her breath as she pushed her bicycle home, saddlebags loaded with supplies for Phoenix. One sweltering afternoon, as Emma led Phoenix through his daily exercises, she spotted an unfamiliar truck pulling up their long driveway. Her grandfather was in town getting parts for the tractor, so she approached cautiously, keeping a protective hand on her horse's neck. The truck parked, and a tall woman in riding breeches and a crisp white shirt emerged. She looked to be in her mid-40s, with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Everything about her, from her polished boots to her confident stride, screamed professional. "Hello there," she called, approaching the fence. "You must be Emma." Emma nodded warily. "Can I help you?" "I'm Sophia Winters. I run Winters Equestrian Center over in Millfield." The woman's keen eyes assessed Phoenix as she spoke. "I heard about your rescue horse and thought I'd stop by." Emma stiffened. Winters Equestrian was the most prestigious riding facility in the county, possibly the state. They trained champions, not broken-down auction rejects. "Why?" Emma asked bluntly. Sophia smiled, seemingly unperturbed by the girl's suspicion. "Professional curiosity. Mind if I take a closer look at him?" After a moment's hesitation, Emma nodded. "His name is Phoenix." "Appropriate," Sophia murmured as she gracefully climbed over the fence. She approached slowly, letting Phoenix see and smell her before she laid hands on him. Her examination was methodical, far more thorough than Dr. Brenner's had been. She checked his teeth, eyes, and overall condition before focusing on the injured leg. "How long have you had him?" she asked, fingers probing the thickened tendon. "Almost 2 months," Emma replied. "He was headed for slaughter after the auction." Sophia nodded, continuing her examination. "Who's been treating him?" "Dr. Brenner came twice. After that, it's been mostly me. I've been researching physical therapy techniques." This earned Emma an appraising look. "And what's your rehabilitation protocol?" Emma described her daily routine with Phoenix, the exercises, the cold therapy, the gradual increase in walking distance and complexity of movements. She showed Sophia the homemade support wraps she'd crafted and explained the special feed formula she'd developed within her limited budget. Throughout the explanation, Sophia's expression remained neutral, giving away nothing. When Emma finished, the woman straightened up and regarded Phoenix thoughtfully. "Who did your grandfather buy him from?" she finally asked. "He didn't. I did, with my own money." Sophia's eyebrows rose slightly. "How old are you, Emma?" 15. "And you did this all on your own?" Emma lifted her chin. "Yes, ma'am. Grandpa helps sometimes, but Phoenix is my responsibility." A slow smile spread across Sophia's face. "Well, Emma Hartley, I have to say I'm impressed. This horse was in terrible shape based on what you've described, and you've already made significant progress." Relief flooded through Emma. "So you think he can fully recover?" Sophia's smile faded slightly. "I didn't say that. The damage to his deep digital flexor tendon is serious. In fact, I'm surprised he's moving as well as he is." Emma's hopes crashed. It was the same verdict Dr. Brenner had given. "But," Sophia continued, "I've seen horses make more surprising comebacks. With the right treatment and a whole lot of patience, Phoenix might surpass expectations." "That's what I've been saying," Emma exclaimed. "Everyone keeps telling me he'll never be more than a pasture pet, but I know he can be more." Sophia gave her a measured look. "What's your goal for him, exactly?" Emma hesitated. She'd barely admitted her dreams to herself, let alone said them aloud. "I want to ride him one day, maybe even compete." To her surprise, Sophia didn't immediately dismiss the idea. Instead, she studied Phoenix again, walking around him slowly. "He's got good conformation overall, decent bloodlines from what I can see. The real question is his heart, his will to recover." "He has heart," Emma said firmly, "more than anyone knows." Sophia nodded, seemingly making a decision. "Tell you what, I'm conducting a clinic on equine rehabilitation at my facility next weekend. It's mainly for veterinary students, but I think you might benefit. I'll waive the fee if you're interested." Emma's eyes widened. Winter's Equestrian typically catered to wealthy clients. She'd never imagined setting foot there, let alone being invited to a professional clinic. I'd have to ask my grandfather," she stammered. "Of course," Sophia replied, handing Emma a business card. "Have him call me if he has questions. And Emma, don't give up on Phoenix just yet. Determination can sometimes work miracles." After Sophia left, Emma rushed through her remaining chores, hardly able to contain her excitement, until her grandfather returned. When Joe's truck finally rumbled up the drive, she met him before he could even turn off the engine. "Grandpa, you'll never guess who came today." Joe listened to Emma's breathless account with a guarded expression. When she finished by asking if she could attend the clinic, he frowned. "Winter's Equestrian? That's the fancy place where rich folks send their $1,000 horses. What would Sophia Winters want with us?" "Not with us," Emma corrected. "With Phoenix. She thinks he might recover more than Dr. Brenner said." "Please, Grandpa, this could be exactly what we need." Joe sighed, looking tired. "Emma, sweetheart, I know you've been working hard with that horse. But these high-end trainers, they have their own agendas. I don't want to see you disappointed." "I won't be," Emma promised. And she waived the fee. "All we need is gas money to get there." Joe studied his granddaughter's hopeful face and sighed again. "I'll think about it." That night, after Emma had gone to bed, Joe called the number on Sophia's card. Their conversation lasted nearly an hour. When he finally hung up, his expression was thoughtful as he looked out the window toward the barn where Phoenix was stabled. The next morning, Joe found Emma already in the paddock with Phoenix, leading him through an elaborate series of turns designed to improve his balance. "I called Miss Winters last night," he announced without preamble. Emma froze, her heart pounding. "And? And you can go to the clinic, but—" He raised a finger as Emma started to cheer. "I'm coming with you. I want to see exactly what kind of operation she's running." Emma threw her arms around him. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Joe warned. "This doesn't mean I'm fully on board with your grand plans. I'm just giving you a chance to learn something useful." But Emma was already dancing away, turning to Phoenix with shining eyes. "Did you hear that, boy? We're going to learn from the best." The day of the clinic arrived with perfect summer weather. Joe had spent the previous evening cleaning his old truck until it shone, a detail that didn't escape Emma's notice. She suspected her grandfather wasn't as immune to the prestige of Winter's Equestrian as he pretended to be. As they drove through the imposing stone gates of the facility, Emma gasped. The property was even more impressive than she'd imagined. Sprawling green pastures, a massive covered arena, immaculate white fencing, and a stable complex that looked more like a luxury hotel than a home for horses. "Don't get any ideas," Joe muttered as he parked the truck between a shiny SUV and a Mercedes. "This is another world from ours." Emma nodded, but her eyes were wide with wonder. I know, Grandpa, but maybe we can bring a little piece of it back with us. As they walked toward the main arena where the clinic was being held, Emma clutched her notebook tightly. She had prepared a list of questions, diagrams of Phoenix's injury, and notes on everything she'd tried so far. She was determined to absorb every scrap of knowledge she could take back to help her horse. What she didn't realize was that this day would mark a turning point, not just in Phoenix's recovery, but in her own journey as well. The clinic at Winter's Equestrian Center exceeded all of Emma's expectations. About 20 people had gathered in the immaculate indoor arena, mostly veterinary students and professional trainers, all at least a decade older than Emma. She felt painfully out of place in her faded jeans and worn boots, especially when surrounded by people in professional riding attire who spoke casually about competitions and training techniques she'd only read about in magazines. Joe sat stiffly in a folding chair at the back, arms crossed over his chest, his weathered face revealing nothing. Emma slid into the seat beside him, clutching her notebook like a lifeline. "We don't belong here," she whispered, suddenly doubting herself. Joe's expression softened. "We were invited, weren't we? Sit up straight and pay attention. That's all that matters." Sophia Winters entered the arena leading a gray gelding with an obvious hind leg lameness. She wore the same crisp professional attire as during her visit to the Hartley farm, but here in her element, she exuded even more authority. The chattering crowd immediately fell silent. "Welcome, everyone," Sophia began, her voice carrying effortlessly through the space. "Today, we're focusing on rehabilitation techniques for horses with severe tendon and ligament injuries." Her eyes found Emma in the crowd, and she offered a small, encouraging smile. "I'm going to demonstrate approaches that combine traditional veterinary care with alternative therapies, showing how they can work together to achieve results that neither might accomplish alone." For the next 3 hours, Emma wrote so furiously that her hand cramped. Sophia covered everything from anatomy and injury mechanics to specific exercises, massage techniques, and nutritional support. She demonstrated on 3 different horses, each with unique challenges, explaining in detail how to adapt treatments to individual needs. "The mistake many people make," Sophia said as she worked with a bay mare, "is approaching rehabilitation as a generic process. Every horse, every injury has its own character. You must listen to what the animal is telling you, adjust your expectations daily, and be willing to explore unconventional methods when traditional ones plateau." Emma glanced at her grandfather, who was leaning forward in his chair, completely absorbed. Even Joe, with his lifetime of horse experience, was learning something new. During a short break, Emma approached one of the demonstration horses, a former jumper recovering from a suspensory ligament injury. The owner, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes, noticed Emma's interest. "Would you like to feel the difference?" she offered. "This is Maestro's good leg and this is the injured one. Notice how the tissue feels different?" Emma placed her hands where indicated, marveling at the subtle differences she could detect beneath her fingers. "I have a horse with a similar injury," she confided, "but his is the front leg, not the hind." "Really?" The woman looked surprised. "How old are you?" 15. "And you're rehabilitating him yourself?" Emma nodded, bracing for the skepticism she'd grown used to. Instead, the woman, who introduced herself as Dr. Nadia Chen, an equine veterinarian, seemed impressed. "That's remarkable dedication for someone your age. How's the recovery going?" Emma described Phoenix's progress, pulling out her phone to show photos of his before and after condition. Dr. Chen examined them thoughtfully. "You've achieved significant improvement in overall condition," she noted. "What exercises are you using for the tendon specifically?" Their conversation continued until Sophia called everyone back for the final segment. Dr. Chen scribbled her email address on a scrap of paper. "Send me more details about your case," she said. "I specialize in sports medicine for horses. I might have some suggestions." Emma clutched the paper like treasure. She'd come hoping to learn techniques, but hadn't expected to make a professional connection. The clinic concluded with Sophia demonstrating aquatic therapy in the center's specialized swimming pool, a luxury Emma could never hope to replicate at home. Still, she diligently took notes, mentally adapting each technique to resources she might actually access. As people began to disperse, Sophia approached Emma and Joe. "What did you think?" she asked. "It was incredible," Emma gushed. "I have so many new ideas to try with Phoenix." Joe nodded, more reserved but clearly impressed. "You've got quite an operation here, Ms. Winters. Thank you for including us. Please call me Sophia." She smiled. "Before you go, I'd like to show you something." She led them through the main stable to a smaller, separate barn set slightly apart from the other buildings. "This is our rehabilitation facility." Inside were 6 spacious stalls equipped with specialized flooring, monitoring systems, and therapeutic equipment Emma had never seen before. 2 of the stalls were occupied by horses at different stages of recovery. "This is where we work our miracles," Sophia explained, stopping at an empty stall. "And I have a proposition for you, Emma." Emma looked up, confused. "I'd like to offer Phoenix a place here for 6 weeks of intensive rehabilitation. We would develop a specialized program using our equipment and expertise, all at no cost to you." Emma's jaw dropped. Joe's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. "Why would you do that?" he asked, suspicion evident in his voice. Sophia met his gaze directly. "3 reasons. First, I run a small foundation that sponsors rehabilitation for promising horses that might otherwise be discarded. Second, your granddaughter has shown exceptional dedication and natural instinct, qualities I respect and want to encourage. And third, quite frankly, I'm curious about Phoenix. From Emma's documentation and what I observed during my visit, he has an unusual case that interests me professionally." Emma's heart raced with excitement. The finest care available, professional expertise, equipment she could never provide. It seemed too good to be true. "What's the catch?" Joe pressed, ever the pragmatist. "No catch," Sophia assured him. "Phoenix would stay here, receive treatment, and return to you when we've done all we can. Emma would be welcome to visit, observe, and participate as her schedule allows. And if he doesn't improve," Joe continued, "then you'll at least know you tried everything possible," Sophia replied softly. "But I've seen enough to believe there's real potential for significant improvement." Joe looked at Emma, whose eyes were shining with hope. "It's your horse, Emma. Your decision." Emma bit her lip, torn between opportunity and separation. The thought of not seeing Phoenix daily, not being the one to oversee his care, felt wrong somehow. Yet denying him the best chance at recovery because of her own attachment seemed selfish. "Could I still visit him? Often?" she asked. Sophia nodded. "As often as you can manage. You'd be part of his rehabilitation team, not just a visitor." Emma took a deep breath. "Then yes. For Phoenix's sake, yes." The following day was one of the hardest of Emma's young life. Loading Phoenix into the borrowed trailer, watching him look to her for reassurance, knowing she wouldn't be bringing him home that night. It all felt like betrayal, despite her rational understanding that this was for his benefit. "It's only 6 weeks, Joe reminded her as they drove away from Winter's Equestrian, leaving Phoenix in the care of strangers. "You'll visit on weekends. And remember, this is what's best for him." Emma nodded, wiping tears from her cheeks. "I know. But he doesn't understand that. He just knows I left him." Joe's weathered hand covered hers. "He knows you love him. That's what matters." The farm felt eerily quiet without Phoenix. Emma went through the motions of her daily routine, but the absence of her morning and evening stable visits left a hollowness she couldn't fill. 3 days after dropping him off, she received an email from Sophia with photos of Phoenix undergoing his first hydrotherapy session. His eyes alert, his body supported by a special harness in the rehabilitation pool. "He's adapting well," Sophia wrote, "already showing his intelligence and willingness to work. You should be proud of the foundation you built with him." Emma studied the photos for hours, noting details about Phoenix's expression, the set of his ears, the carriage of his head. He didn't look frightened or abandoned. If anything, he appeared engaged, as if embracing this new chapter in his recovery journey. Maybe, just maybe, she had made the right decision after all. Every Saturday for the next 6 weeks, Emma rose before dawn to catch a ride with her grandfather to Winter's Equestrian Center. The hour-long drive always seemed to take forever, her anticipation building with each mile. Joe pretended to grumble about the gas money and early mornings, but Emma noticed how he never suggested skipping a week, how he always had the truck warmed up and waiting when she rushed out the door. Phoenix's progress was remarkable. Even Joe had to admit it. Under Sophia's expert guidance and with access to state-of-the-art therapeutic equipment, the chestnut gelding was transforming. His coat gleamed with health, his eyes sparkled with renewed confidence, and most importantly, his injured leg showed significant improvement. The underwater treadmill has been crucial, Sophia explained during Emma's third visit, as they watched Phoenix walking steadily in chest-deep water, the resistance strengthening his muscles without putting pressure on his damaged tendon. It allows him to build strength while minimizing strain. Emma nodded, taking careful notes. And the cold compression therapy, is that still helping? Absolutely. We do it after every session. Sophia gave Emma an approving look. You're absorbing all this like a professional, you know. Emma blushed at the compliment. I just want to be able to continue his care properly when he comes home. The question of what would happen after Phoenix's 6-week rehabilitation had been weighing on Emma's mind. She knew their modest farm couldn't provide the sophisticated equipment and expertise he was receiving at Winter's. Would he regress once he returned to her care? As if reading her thoughts, Sophia placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. You know, there's something remarkable about Phoenix that all our fancy equipment can't take credit for. His fighting spirit. And I'm convinced that came from you. What do you mean? When horses are discarded the way Phoenix was, they often give up. The will to recover is as important as the physical treatment. Sophia's eyes were serious as she continued. That horse trusts you completely. He lights up when you arrive, works harder when you're watching. You gave him that foundation before he ever came here. Emma felt a lump forming in her throat. He saved me too, you know. After my parents died, I was just going through the motions. Phoenix gave me a reason to care again. Sophia squeezed her shoulder gently. Then you're lucky to have found each other. During her weekend visits, Emma absorbed everything she could from Sophia and her staff. She learned to detect subtle changes in Phoenix's gait, to administer specialized massage techniques, and to read his body language for signs of pain or progress. She befriended the grooms and exercise riders, asking endless questions about rehabilitation exercises and proper nutrition. Dr. Chen, the veterinarian she'd met at the clinic, became another valuable mentor, showing Emma how to evaluate tendon healing through careful palpation and explaining the science behind Phoenix's treatment protocol. The scar tissue will always be there, Dr. Chen explained during one of her visits to check on Phoenix. But with proper rehabilitation, the surrounding tissues can compensate. He might never be 100% sound, but he could still have a functional, active life. Functional enough to ride? Emma asked, the question that had been burning in her heart since day one. Dr. Chen considered this carefully. Every case is different, but I wouldn't rule it out. Light riding, properly introduced, might actually benefit him at some point. But, she cautioned, seeing Emma's eyes light up, that decision is still months away, and it would require careful monitoring. Even this guarded optimism was more than anyone else had offered, and it fueled Emma's determination. Each night after returning from Winter's, she would update her detailed journal, tracking Phoenix's progress and planning adaptations of his rehabilitation program that she could implement at home. During Phoenix's 5th week at Winter's, Sophia presented Emma with an unexpected challenge. I think it's time for Phoenix to begin short, controlled walking sessions with a rider, she announced, as Emma arrived for her Saturday visit. Emma's heart skipped a beat. A rider? Already? But Dr. Chen said, she and I have conferred. Sophia interrupted gently. We believe Phoenix is ready for very limited weight-bearing tests, just walking for no more than 5 minutes at a time, with a small rider. Emma processed this information. Who would ride him? Sophia smiled. That's why I waited to tell you in person. I think it should be you. Me? Emma's voice rose with surprise. But I've I've ridden our old pony when I was little and a few trail horses. But I'm not. You're exactly who it should be, Sophia insisted. You're light. You know him better than anyone, and he trusts you completely. Besides, you have excellent balance and body awareness. I've been watching how you move around him. Emma's heart raced at the prospect. To ride Phoenix, it had been her dream since the auction, a dream she'd barely allowed herself to acknowledge. When? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Today, if you're willing. The preparations seemed both agonizingly slow and frighteningly rushed. Phoenix was groomed meticulously, his leg wrapped with supportive bandages. Sophia personally checked and double-checked the saddle fit, ensuring it distributed weight properly without putting pressure on sensitive areas. Emma changed into borrowed riding clothes, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled on the helmet Sophia provided. This moment felt monumental, crossing a threshold she had imagined but never truly expected to reach. Now remember, Sophia instructed as she led Phoenix into the small round pen they'd use for this first attempt. The goal is just to assess how he handles weight, not to actually ride him. Sit quiet and balanced. No leg aids, minimal rein contact. Just exist on his back and let him tell us how he feels. Emma nodded, suddenly feeling the enormity of this responsibility. What if she hurt him? What if adding her weight undid weeks of careful progress? Stop overthinking, Sophia said kindly, reading her expression. Trust your instincts and trust Phoenix. With surprising steadiness, Emma placed her foot in the stirrup and gently eased herself onto Phoenix's back. The gelding's ears flicked back to acknowledge her presence, but he remained perfectly still, as if understanding the significance of this moment. Good boy, Emma whispered, tears pricking her eyes as she realized she was actually sitting on her horse, the broken-down auction reject no one had wanted, the animal everyone had insisted would never be sound enough to ride. Sophia held the lead rope, guiding Phoenix forward at the slowest possible walk. Emma focused on keeping her weight centered, moving with his slightly uneven gait rather than against it. They completed one circle of the round pen, then another. Phoenix's ears remained pricked forward, his stride careful but willing. How does he feel? Sophia asked. Steady, Emma replied, noting how Phoenix was compensating slightly for his weakness but not showing signs of pain. He's being so careful. They continued for precisely 5 minutes before Sophia signaled the end of the session. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to see. As Emma slid carefully off Phoenix's back, she couldn't stop the tears that spilled down her cheeks. She buried her face in his mane, arms wrapped around his neck. You did it, Phoenix. You really did it. On the drive home that evening, Emma was unusually quiet, replaying the moment in her mind. Joe glanced over at her periodically, finally breaking the silence as they turned onto the gravel road leading to their farm. So you rode him today, he said matter-of-factly. Emma started. How did you know? Joe snorted. I've raised horses all my life, and I raised your mother too. I know that look. Same one she got when she jumped her first fence. His voice softened at the memory. Plus, Sophia told me while you were saying goodbye to Phoenix. Are you mad? Emma asked hesitantly. I know we agreed he might never be rideable. Joe was quiet for a long moment before responding. No, I'm not mad. Truth is, I'm proud of you, Emma. You saw something in that horse that nobody else did, including me. You stuck with it when most would have given up. He paused, then added gruffly, Your mom would have done the same thing. Emma felt warmth spread through her chest at the rare comparison to her mother, the champion rider whose trophies still lined the shelves in their living room. Thanks, Grandpa. That means everything. As they pulled up to the farmhouse, Joe turned off the engine but didn't immediately move to get out. Phoenix comes home next week, he said, staring through the windshield at the darkened barn. You know things will be different here. We don't have all that fancy equipment." "I know," Emma nodded. "But Sophia's helping me plan a modified program using what we do have, and Dr. Chen is willing to make monthly visits to check his progress." Joe raised an eyebrow. "Monthly vet visits? How do you plan to pay for those?" Emma straightened her shoulders. "Dr. Chen offered a reduced rate because she's interested in Phoenix's case, and I've been saving from my grocery job. Plus..." She hesitated, then continued. "Sophia said there might be a possibility of a partial scholarship from her foundation if I'm interested in continuing my education in equine rehabilitation." Joe studied his granddaughter's face, noting the determination in her eyes. So like her mother's, so like his own. Without a word, he reached over and pulled her into a tight hug. "Your parents would be so proud of the young woman you're becoming," he whispered against her hair. Emma hugged him back fiercely, knowing that high praise indeed had been wrapped in those simple words. Homecoming day arrived with perfect fall weather, crisp morning air softening into golden afternoon sunshine. Emma had spent the entire week preparing for Phoenix's return, transforming their modest stable into the closest approximation of winter's rehabilitation facility she could manage with limited resources and boundless determination. Joe had pitched in more than he'd admit, reinforcing the stall walls, installing rubber mats for better footing, and even building a small water treadmill using an old stock tank, a modified tractor part, and designs Emma had sketched based on Sophia's equipment. It wasn't sophisticated, but it was functional, exactly like everything else at Hartley Farm. "Do you think he'll remember his old home?" Emma asked anxiously as they waited for Sophia's trailer to arrive. Joe adjusted his worn cap. "Horses don't forget. Question is whether he'll be happy to be back or spoiled by all that fancy treatment." Before Emma could respond, the distinctive rumble of a diesel engine announced Sophia's arrival. The gleaming white trailer with the Winter's Equestrian logo pulled up to their barn, looking almost comically out of place beside their weathered buildings and rusted equipment. Sophia emerged from the cab, elegant as always, despite the travel. "Sorry we're a bit late." Phoenix was apparently in no hurry to leave his spa treatment behind. Her smile took any sting out of the words. When the trailer door opened and the ramp lowered, Emma held her breath. Would Phoenix be different? Would he still respond to her the same way? All doubts vanished the moment the chestnut gelding appeared. His ears pricked forward and his nostrils flared as he caught her scent. The soft nickering sound he made caused a lump to form in Emma's throat. "He knows he's home," she whispered. As Groom led Phoenix down the ramp, Emma could hardly believe the transformation from the broken-down auction horse to this gleaming, muscled athlete. His coat shone like burnished copper in the autumn sunlight, and though his stride still showed a slight unevenness, the painful hobble was gone. Sophia handed the lead rope to Emma. "He's all yours again." Phoenix lowered his head to Emma's level, blowing softly against her cheek in a horse's version of a kiss. Emma wrapped her arms around his neck, breathing in his familiar scent. "I missed you so much, boy." After showing Sophia their preparations, including the homemade water treadmill that earned an impressed nod, Emma led Phoenix to the south paddock where his journey had begun. She removed his halter, expecting him to explore his old territory. Instead, Phoenix stayed close, following Emma as she backed away, nudging her shoulder gently with his muzzle. "I think someone missed you as much as you missed him," Joe observed from the fence. Even Sophia looked touched by the display of affection. Before leaving, Sophia reviewed Emma's rehabilitation plan one final time. "Remember, consistency is key. Don't rush progress because you're eager to ride again. Build strength gradually." "I will," Emma promised. "And thank you for everything." Sophia smiled. "This is just the beginning for you two. I expect great things." The following weeks established a new routine. Emma rose earlier than ever, allowing time for Phoenix's therapy before school. Afternoons were devoted to more intensive rehabilitation, carefully following the protocol Sophia had designed. Joe pretended not to notice when she occasionally missed dinner because she was too absorbed in Phoenix's care, simply keeping a plate warm for her in the oven. News of Phoenix's transformation spread through Oak Ridge. People who had once whispered about Emma's hopeless case now found excuses to drive by the Hartley farm, slowing as they passed the paddock where Phoenix could often be seen trotting with increasing confidence. Dr. Chen visited monthly as promised, documenting Phoenix's progress with professional precision. After the third visit, she sat with Emma and Joe at their kitchen table, reviewing her findings. "His improvement is remarkable," she concluded. "The scar tissue is reorganizing in a way I wouldn't have predicted. He's compensating intelligently for the weakness." "So we're on the right track?" Emma asked eagerly. Dr. Chen nodded. "More than that. I think it's time to increase his work under saddle. Gradually, of course." This was what Emma had been hoping to hear for months. Since their return from Winters, she had ridden Phoenix only for short walking sessions 3 times a week. The prospect of actual training, of working towards something more than just rehabilitation, sent a thrill through her. October brought the announcement of the Oak Ridge Harvest Festival, including its traditional equestrian showcase. It wasn't a serious competition, mostly local riders performing demonstrations and casual classes, but it was the social event of the season for the county's horse community. Emma was helping Mr. Clayton unload supplies at the grocery store when she heard 2 women discussing plans for the festival. "Mia's riding her new jumper in the open exhibition," one said. "Howard paid a fortune for that horse, but it's worth it to see her finally on something competitive." "Better than last year when she had to ride that ancient pony," the other agreed. "Who else is entering?" "The usual suspects." "Mostly. Though I heard Sophia Winters might bring some of her students for a dressage demonstration." Emma froze, her mind racing. Sophia hadn't mentioned any plans to participate in the local festival. Usually, Winters equestrian only attended prestigious competitions. That evening, Emma called Sophia, who confirmed she would indeed be bringing a small group to the festival. "It's good community outreach," she explained. "And honestly, it's refreshing to participate in something just for fun sometimes." Emma took a deep breath. "Do you think, could Phoenix and I maybe join us?" Sophia finished for her. "I was hoping you'd ask. What did you have in mind?" "Nothing major," Emma hurried to clarify. "Maybe just the walk-trot equitation class, or even just the exhibition. I just think it would be good for him to experience a show environment and for people to see how far he's come." There was a thoughtful pause before Sophia responded. "Phoenix has been making excellent progress, but a competition, even a small local one, is a significant stress test. What does Dr. Chen think?" "I haven't asked her yet," Emma admitted. "I wanted your opinion first." "Tell you what," Sophia suggested. "If Dr. Chen approves, and if Phoenix continues his current progress, I think the exhibition might be appropriate. It would be a controlled environment where you could show his improvement without the pressure of competition." Emma could hardly contain her excitement. "That would be amazing. Thank you." When she broached the subject with her grandfather that night, however, Joe's reaction was less enthusiastic. "A public exhibition? Already?" His weathered face creased with worry. "Emma, it's barely been 3 months since that horse could hardly walk." "But you've seen his progress," Emma argued. "He's ready for this, Grandpa. It would just be a simple walk-trot pattern, nothing strenuous." "And if he comes up lame in front of the whole town?" Joe countered. "Or worse, if he falls. Have you thought about what that would do to him?" "To you?" Emma's enthusiasm deflated slightly. "I wouldn't do anything to risk his health. Dr. Chen and Sophia would need to approve it first." Joe sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "People in this town have long memories, Emma. They remember your mother winning championships. They'll expect something from you that Phoenix might not be ready to give." "This isn't about living up to Mom's legacy," Emma insisted, though the words stung with truth she wasn't ready to fully acknowledge. "It's about showing people that Phoenix isn't just the broken-down auction horse everyone dismissed." Joe studied his granddaughter's determined face. "And if Dr. Chen says no?" "Then we wait," Emma promised. "His well-being comes first. Always." Dr. Chen's next visit coincided with Phoenix's best day yet. The gelding executed his therapy exercises with enthusiasm, showed minimal signs of discomfort during palpation, and moved with near-normal stride during his walk-trot assessment. After a thorough examination, Dr. Chen looked up at Emma with cautious approval. If you limit it to walk and gentle trot, in a controlled pattern, with proper warm-up and cool-down, yes, I think the exhibition is reasonable. Emma resisted the urge to jump with joy, maintaining the professional demeanor she'd been cultivating. Thank you. I'll be extremely careful with his preparation. That night, Emma made the official call to enter Phoenix in the Harvest Festival exhibition. As she hung up the phone, a mixture of elation and terror washed over her. In just 3 weeks, she would present Phoenix to the community, the ultimate test of everything they'd worked for. "We can do this," she whispered to herself. "We have to." The 3 weeks leading up to the Harvest Festival passed in a blur of focused preparation. Emma created a detailed training schedule that balanced Phoenix's continued rehabilitation with gradually increasing work under saddle. Each session was meticulously documented in her journal: duration, exercises, Phoenix's responses, any signs of discomfort or progress. Phoenix seemed to sense the importance of their work, approaching each training session with the same determination that had caught Emma's attention at the auction. Though his injury still affected his movement, he had learned to compensate in ways that minimized strain and maximized efficiency. 1 week before the festival, Sophia came to observe their progress. Emma led Phoenix through their planned exhibition routine, a simple pattern of walking, gentle trotting, and basic transitions designed to showcase his recovery without taxing his still-healing tendon. "Good," Sophia nodded as they finished. "You're being smart about his limitations, but there's something missing." Emma dismounted, looking concerned. "What did I do wrong?" "Not wrong," Sophia clarified. "Just, it lacks impact. Remember, this is a demonstration. People need to understand the significance of what they're seeing." "I don't understand." Sophia gestured for Emma to sit beside her on a hay bale. "Right now, anyone watching would see a nice horse with a slight lameness performing simple movements. They wouldn't grasp the miracle of what you've accomplished." Emma frowned. "But I don't want to push him beyond what's safe just to impress people." "Of course not," Sophia agreed. "But there are ways to tell his story without risking his health." She tapped her chin thoughtfully. "What if we created before and after visuals? Photos from the auction, from his early rehabilitation, maybe even that video I took of his first hydrotherapy session. Like a presentation before we ride." "Exactly." The festival organizer could narrate Phoenix's journey while displaying these images on the big screen they use for announcements. Then, when you enter the ring, people will truly appreciate what they're witnessing. Emma's eyes brightened. "That's brilliant. I have tons of documentation, photos, videos, even his original auction listing." "Perfect," Sophia smiled. "And one more thing. Bring his auction number." "Number 67, Emma questioned. "Why?" "Trust me," Sophia winked. "Sometimes symbols speak louder than words." The suggestion energized Emma. That evening she pored through her documentation, selecting the most powerful images that told Phoenix's story. The contrast was stunning, from the dejected, painfully thin horse with dull eyes to the proud, muscular athlete he was becoming. Joe found her surrounded by photos, eyes red from crying. "Emma, what's wrong?" She wiped her cheeks, smiling through tears. "Nothing's wrong. I just forgot how far we've come." She held up 2 photos, Phoenix on the day she bought him, and Phoenix from that morning's training session. "Look at him, Grandpa. Just look at the difference." Joe sat heavily beside her, taking the photos. For a long moment, he studied them in silence. "You did this," he finally said, his voice rough with emotion. "You saved him when everyone else had given up." "We did it," Emma corrected, leaning against his shoulder. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." In the final days before the festival, Emma focused on preparing Phoenix for the sensory challenges of a show environment. She played recordings of crowd noises during their training sessions, introduced him to flags and banners similar to those that would decorate the festival grounds, and enlisted neighbors to create distractions while she rode. Phoenix handled these challenges with growing confidence. The only thing that consistently startled him was the sound of vehicle engines revving, a reaction Emma attributed to his traumatic experience with the slaughter truck. "We'll just need to be extra careful during arrival and departure," she told her grandfather as they loaded supplies into the truck the night before the festival. "Once he's away from the parking area, he should be fine." Joe nodded, though concern lingered in his eyes. "Just remember what we agreed. At the first sign of trouble, you abort the demonstration. No risks." "I promise," Emma said solemnly. The morning of the Harvest Festival dawned crisp and clear, the perfect autumn day. Emma had barely slept, alternating between excitement and anxiety throughout the night. She arrived at the stable before sunrise to find her grandfather already there, Phoenix's stall mucked out and fresh water provided. "Thought you could use a head start," he said simply. Emma hugged him wordlessly, too emotional for speech. They loaded Phoenix into Mr. Peterson's borrowed trailer with far less difficulty than that first day after the auction. The gelding walked up the ramp calmly, trusting Emma's guidance. As Joe secured the trailer doors, Emma couldn't help comparing that terrified, pain-racked horse to the composed animal now waiting patiently for his next adventure. The Oak Ridge Fairgrounds bustled with activity when they arrived. Vendors set up booths selling everything from homemade pies to handcrafted leather goods. The central arena was being decorated with harvest-themed garlands, and horses of all shapes and sizes were being unloaded, groomed, and warmed up. Sophia met them at the designated unloading area, away from the main parking lot as she had promised. "Perfect timing," she greeted them. "I've arranged for Phoenix to use one of the covered warm-up rings. It's quieter there." As Emma led Phoenix across the grounds, she noticed how heads turned to watch them pass. Some expressions showed curiosity, others skepticism, but most registered surprise. Clearly, word had spread about Emma Hartley's rescue project, but few had actually seen Phoenix's transformation in person. The covered warm-up ring was a sanctuary of relative calm. Emma took her time preparing Phoenix, brushing his gleaming coat until it shone like burnished copper, carefully wrapping his legs with the supportive bandages Dr. Chen had recommended, and tacking him up with the specially fitted saddle Sophia had helped her select. Throughout the morning, Phoenix remained surprisingly relaxed, taking each new experience in stride. Even when a nearby loudspeaker crackled to life, announcing the day's schedule, he merely flicked an ear and continued munching the hay Emma had provided. "He's handling this better than I am," Emma admitted to her grandfather, who had been silently monitoring their preparation. Joe's mouth twitched in a rare smile. "That makes two of us." An hour before their scheduled exhibition, the festival organizer, Mrs. Mendez, approached with a clipboard. "Emma Hartley? We've incorporated the presentation materials you provided. It will run for approximately 2 minutes before your entrance. Are you comfortable with that timing?" Emma nodded. "Perfect. Thank you for accommodating the last-minute change." "Not at all," Mrs. Mendez replied. Sophia explained the significance. "It's quite a story." She glanced at Phoenix, who stood quietly beside Emma. Hard to believe this is the same horse from those early photos. As their time slot approached, Emma changed into her show clothes, not the expensive custom attire of winter's riders, but a clean white shirt, her best jeans, and her mother's old show jacket that Joe had retrieved from storage. The jacket was slightly too large and outdated in style, but when Emma slipped it on, something settled in her chest, a connection to her past that strengthened her for the moment ahead. Sophia appeared at the entrance to the warm-up ring, elegant in her own show attire. "They're ready for you in 5 minutes. How are you feeling?" "Nervous," Emma admitted, "but ready." "Remember," Sophia advised, "this is already a victory. Whatever happens in that ring, you've accomplished something remarkable. Just enjoy sharing it with others." Emma nodded, then reached into her pocket and pulled out a small object, the auction tag with number 67 printed in bold black ink. With Sophia's help, she affixed it to Phoenix's bridle, where it hung like a badge of both hardship and triumph. "Perfect," Sophia whispered. "Now everyone will understand." As the public address system announced the next exhibition, Joe stepped forward and placed his weathered hands on Emma's shoulders. "Your mother would be bursting with pride right now," he said, voice rough with emotion. "I certainly am." Emma swallowed hard against the lump in her throat. "Thank you, Grandpa, for everything." Mounting Phoenix with practiced care, Emma took a deep, steadying breath. This moment, presenting their journey to the community that had doubted them, represented more than just a simple riding demonstration. It was a testament to faith, perseverance, and the unbreakable bond between a girl and the horse no one else had wanted. "Let's show them what you can do," she whispered to Phoenix, gathering the reins as they prepared to enter the arena. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice echoed through the fairgrounds. "Before our next exhibition, we have a special presentation." Emma waited at the entrance to the main arena, stroking Phoenix's neck as the big screen flickered to life. The first image appeared. Phoenix at the auction, head hanging low, ribs protruding beneath his dull coat. A collective murmur rippled through the crowd. "This is Phoenix, lot number 67 at the Millfield Livestock Auction this past spring," the announcer continued, following the script Emma and Sophia had prepared. With a severe tendon injury and marked for slaughter, his value was considered zero by every professional in attendance. More images appeared. Phoenix struggling to walk on his first day at the Hartley farm, the severe swelling in his injured leg, the fear and pain evident in his eyes. Emma felt her throat tighten with emotion as she relived those difficult early days. A local 15-year-old girl named Emma Hartley saw something different, not a hopeless case, but a life worth saving. The screen transitioned to Emma's documentation of Phoenix's rehabilitation, the home therapy sessions, the gradual improvement, his time at Winter's Equestrian Center, and finally, recent photos of Phoenix trotting soundly in the Hartley paddock. "What you're about to witness isn't just a riding demonstration," the announcer's voice grew solemn. "It's a testament to second chances, to seeing value where others see none, and to the extraordinary bond between human and horse." As the final image faded, the announcer concluded, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emma Hartley and Phoenix, the horse who rose from the ashes." Taking a deep breath, Emma gently squeezed with her calves, and Phoenix stepped forward into the arena. The bright autumn sunlight illuminated his gleaming coat, transforming him into a creature of living flame. The auction tag hanging from his bridle caught the light, the number 67 clearly visible to everyone watching. Complete silence fell over the fairgrounds. Even those who had come just for the carnival rides and food stands paused to watch as Phoenix made his entrance, his stride still showing a slight unevenness, but displaying a dignity that belied his traumatic past. Emma guided him to the center of the arena, halted, and nodded to acknowledge the audience. Phoenix stood perfectly still, ears pricked forward, alert but calm. A stark contrast to the terrified animal from the auction. As they began their demonstration, Emma focused entirely on Phoenix, communicating through subtle cues honed over months of working together. They started with a graceful walk, showing how Phoenix could now move with confidence despite his past injury. His hooves kicked up small puffs of dust as they traced precise circles and diagonals across the arena. When they transitioned to a trot, the movement that had once caused Phoenix such agony, a spontaneous applause broke out from the crowd. The sound startled Phoenix briefly, but Emma leaned forward to murmur reassurance, and he settled immediately, responding to her voice with complete trust. Their routine wasn't technically complex, nothing like the advanced maneuvers Sophia's top students would perform later. But its simplicity highlighted the miracle of Phoenix's recovery. Each smooth transition, each balanced turn, represented countless hours of patience, determination, and hope. As they completed the final pattern, returning to center arena, Emma brought Phoenix to a halt and patted his neck, overwhelmed with pride. The crowd's applause swelled, punctuated by cheers and whistles. Even those who had scoffed at Emma's foolish project months earlier were on their feet. The announcer's voice cut through the applause. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've just witnessed might seem like a simple riding demonstration, but for this horse, once destined for slaughter because his injury was deemed untreatable, every step is a triumph. Emma couldn't hold back her tears any longer. They streamed down her cheeks as she leaned forward to hug Phoenix's neck, burying her face in his mane. The crowd's applause grew even louder, transforming into a standing ovation that celebrated not just a performance, but a journey. As they exited the arena, Emma spotted her grandfather waiting by the gate, his weathered face shining with emotion. Behind him stood Sophia, Dr. Chen, and a small crowd of well-wishers who had followed Phoenix's story from the beginning. "You did it, kid," Joe said gruffly, helping Emma dismount. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled her into a quick, fierce hug. "Your mom was watching, I swear it." Emma couldn't speak, overwhelmed by the moment. Phoenix nudged her shoulder gently, as if trying to comfort her, and she laughed through her tears, turning to embrace his neck again. Dr. Chen approached, professional as always, but with unmistakable pride in her eyes. "His movement is even better than at our last evaluation. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." She lowered her voice, adding, "And don't tell anyone I said this, but I think competitive riding could absolutely be in his future." Before Emma could respond, they were surrounded by admirers, children asking to pet Phoenix, adults praising his transformation, even a few gruff local farmers who had once dismissed Emma's efforts now offering grudging congratulations. "Emma!" A familiar voice cut through the crowd. Mrs. Clayton, her boss from the grocery store, pushed forward, clutching a camera. "The newspaper wants a photo for tomorrow's edition. Front page." "Front page?" Emma echoed, stunned. "Of course," Mrs. Clayton beamed. "Local girl saves doomed horse. It's the feel-good story of the festival." The rest of the day passed in a happy blur. Emma and Phoenix remained at the fairgrounds, watching Sophia's demonstration with her elite students, accepting congratulations from strangers, and finally relaxing together in a quiet corner of the stabling area as the festival wound down. As the autumn sun began to set, casting long shadows across the fairgrounds, Joe approached with a strange expression on his face. "What is it, Grandpa?" Emma asked, looking up from where she sat on a hay bale beside Phoenix's temporary stall. "There's someone here to see you," Joe said, his voice carefully neutral. "A Mr. Howard Thompson." Emma frowned. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place it. A tall, distinguished-looking man in an expensive riding jacket appeared behind Joe. His silver hair and confident bearing marked him as someone of means and influence. "Ms. Hartley," he extended his hand. "Your demonstration with Phoenix was remarkable. I'm Howard Thompson. I own Silverbrook Stables." Now Emma remembered. Silverbrook was one of the most prestigious competition barns in the state, second only to Winter's Equestrian. The conversation she'd overheard at the grocery store came back to her. Howard Thompson was the man who had paid a fortune for a horse for his daughter. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," Emma replied cautiously, shaking his hand. "It's nice to meet you." "I'll be direct," Thompson said, glancing at Phoenix appraisingly. "I've been looking for an investment opportunity in equine rehabilitation. After seeing what you accomplished with this horse, I'd like to discuss purchasing him." Emma's blood ran cold. "Phoenix isn't for sale." Thompson smiled indulgently. "Everything has a price, Ms. Hartley. I'm prepared to be quite generous. This horse has obvious sentimental value to you, but he also represents a significant financial opportunity. With proper marketing, his story could make him extraordinarily valuable as a breeding prospect." "With all due respect, sir," Emma stood straighter. "Phoenix isn't a financial opportunity. He's my partner." Thompson's smile tightened. "I understand youthful attachment, but be reasonable. Your family farm could clearly use the capital. I'm offering enough to replace this horse with several top-quality animals and still have plenty left over for improvements to your property." Joe stepped forward. "Mr. Thompson, my granddaughter has made her position clear." Thompson looked between them, genuine confusion crossing his face. "Forgive me, but I don't understand." Isn't this the point of rehabilitation, to increase value? Emma shook her head. Not for me. The point was to give Phoenix a second chance at life, not to flip him for profit once he recovered. That's admirable, Thompson said, though his tone suggested he found it foolish. But surely you recognize that your resources are limited. At Silverbrook, he would have the finest care available. Your daughter already has a $1,000 jumper, Emma interrupted, recalling the conversation she'd overheard. Phoenix doesn't need another owner. He needs the one who believed in him when no one else did. Thompson stiffened, clearly unused to being refused. You should consider my offer carefully, Ms. Hartley. It won't remain open indefinitely. With a curt nod to Joe, he turned and walked away. Emma's hands trembled as she stroked Phoenix's neck. Can you believe that? Thinking Phoenix is just a commodity. Joe sighed, watching Thompson's retreating figure. Can't entirely blame him. That's how the horse world works at that level. Buy low, sell high. Well, it's not how our world works, Emma declared fiercely. Joe studied his granddaughter's determined face, then glanced at Phoenix, who was calmly watching them both with intelligent eyes. No, he agreed softly. It's not how our world works. As they loaded Phoenix into the trailer for the journey home, Emma couldn't shake the encounter with Thompson. The idea that someone saw Phoenix primarily as a valuable property to be acquired disturbed her deeply. Yet a small practical voice in her head, one that sounded suspiciously like her grandfather's, wondered if she was being selfish. Would Phoenix have better opportunities with the resources of Silverbrook behind him? You're awful quiet, Joe observed as they drove home in the twilight. Just thinking, Emma replied, watching the familiar landscape roll by. Grandpa, did I do the right thing, turning down Mr. Thompson? Joe was silent for a moment. Do you think Phoenix would be happier at Silverbrook? No, Emma answered without hesitation. But he might have advantages I can't give him. Advantages like what? Fancier stables? More expensive feed? Joe shook his head. That horse knows exactly who saved him and who believes in him. Some things matter more than fancy facilities. Emma smiled, feeling the weight lift from her shoulders. You're right. Phoenix belongs with us. As the truck turned onto the familiar gravel road leading to their farm, Emma felt a sense of rightness settle over her. Today had been more than just a successful exhibition. It had been a validation of everything she'd fought for, everything she believed about Phoenix's potential. In the trailer behind them, Phoenix traveled peacefully, head lowered in relaxed confidence, a far cry from the trembling, terrified animal they'd brought home from the auction months before. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The girl nobody expected to succeed, and the horse nobody wanted. The Harvest Festival transformed Phoenix from Emma's hopeless case into something of a local legend. The front-page newspaper story, complete with before and after photos, circulated widely through Oak Ridge and beyond. People who had never shown interest in horses stopped Emma at the grocery store to ask about Phoenix's progress. Children from the elementary school sent hand-drawn pictures of a fiery orange horse with wings, their literal interpretation of his mythological name. Emma appreciated the support, but found herself unexpectedly protective of their privacy. She politely declined when the regional television station requested an interview, and gently but firmly turned away curious visitors who drove up their driveway hoping to see the miracle horse. You don't have to shield him from everyone, Joe commented one afternoon, as Emma hurried Phoenix into the barn when yet another unfamiliar car approached. Might do him good to get used to strangers. It's not that, Emma explained, watching through the barn window as Joe sent the visitors away. I just don't want people treating him like a curiosity. He's not a sideshow attraction. Joe nodded, understanding. Fair enough. But you might want to consider that his story could help other horses. People who might have given up on an injured animal might think twice now. His words gave Emma pause. She hadn't considered Phoenix's journey from that perspective, as an inspiration that might save other lives. The thought lingered with her as autumn deepened toward winter. November brought frost-covered mornings and the need to adjust Phoenix's rehabilitation routine. The cold weather caused his injured leg to stiffen, requiring longer warm-up periods and more careful management. Emma researched cold weather therapies, invested in specialized liniments, and modified his exercise program to accommodate the challenges of winter. Despite the setbacks, Phoenix continued to progress. By early December, Dr. Chen declared him sound enough for longer rides and more challenging work. "Just keep monitoring him carefully," she advised. "If you notice any regression, back off immediately." With this green light, Emma began incorporating more advanced exercises into their training: gentle hill work to build hindquarter strength, small poles on the ground to improve coordination, and basic dressage movements to enhance flexibility. Phoenix approached each new challenge with the same determined spirit that had characterized his entire recovery. Sophia visited periodically, providing guidance and encouragement. During one December session, she watched Emma work Phoenix through a series of suppling exercises with a critical eye. "You're babying him," she finally commented, as Emma brought Phoenix to a halt. Emma frowned. "What do you mean?" "You're so afraid of pushing him too hard that you're not pushing him enough." Sophia approached, adjusting Emma's position slightly. "His injury has healed remarkably well. The remaining limitation is partly physical, yes, but it's also psychological, both his and yours." "I don't want to risk regression, I know," Sophia nodded. "But at some point, you have to trust that he's ready for more. He's telling you he is, if you'd listen." Emma bit her lip, considering Sophia's words. It was true that Phoenix often seemed eager to do more, to move faster than their careful protocol allowed. Was she holding him back out of excessive caution? "What do you suggest?" she asked. Sophia smiled. "The Winter Classic." Emma's eyes widened. The Winter Classic was a mid-level competition held in January at an indoor arena about an hour away. It wasn't as prestigious as the events Winter's Equestrian usually participated in, but it was far more serious than the Harvest Festival exhibition. "You think he's ready for actual competition?" Emma couldn't keep the doubt from her voice. "For the novice division, absolutely," Sophia confirmed. "Nothing too demanding. A simple dressage test, maybe some ground poles. But it would give him a goal to work toward and show both of you what's possible." The suggestion terrified and thrilled Emma in equal measure. A real competition, with judges, scores, other competitors. It was more than she'd dared to hope for Phoenix just months ago. "I'll need to talk to Dr. Chen," she hedged. "And Grandpa, of course." "Of course," Sophia agreed. "But I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't think you were both ready." That evening, Emma approached her grandfather as he repaired a broken hinge on one of the barn doors. "Sophia thinks Phoenix and I should enter the Winter Classic next month," she blurted out, too nervous to lead up to the topic gradually. Joe's hand stilled. "A competition? Not just an exhibition?" Emma nodded, watching his face carefully. "The novice division. Nothing too strenuous." Joe was quiet for a long moment, his weathered hands resting on the tools in his lap. "Your mother competed in the Winter Classic," he finally said, his voice soft with memory. "Won her division 3 years running when she was about your age." Emma hadn't known this. Her mother's competitive riding career had ended years before Emma was born, when a back injury forced her retirement. The trophies in their living room came from events Emma had never heard her mother discuss. "I didn't realize," she said quietly. Joe smiled faintly. "She'd be tickled pink to see you following in her footsteps, especially with a horse like Phoenix." "So, you think it's a good idea?" "I think," Joe said carefully, "that Phoenix has already exceeded every expectation I had for him, and so have you. If Dr. Chen approves, I don't see why you shouldn't try." Dr. Chen did approve, though with typical caution. "No jumping," she emphasized. "Stick to flat work for now, and I want to examine him the week before and the day of the competition." With the decision made, Emma threw herself into preparation. The Winter Classic was only 6 weeks away. Not much time to prepare a formerly injured horse for his competition debut. She created a meticulous training schedule, allowing for bad weather days and incorporating regular rest periods to prevent overexertion. Joe, seeing her determination, made his own contribution, clearing an area in the old indoor arena they rarely used, replacing burnt-out lights and dragging the ancient footing until it was serviceable. It wasn't nearly as nice as Winter's facilities, but it provided a space to work when winter storms made outdoor riding impossible. "This is amazing, Grandpa," Emma exclaimed when he showed her the renovated space. "I can't believe you did all this." Joe shrugged, though pleasure at her reaction showed in his eyes. "Can't have my granddaughter training a competition horse in the snow, can I?" As Christmas approached, Emma received an unexpected invitation from Sophia to participate in a holiday clinic at Winter's Equestrian, a 2-day intensive training session with a renowned dressage judge who would be presiding at the Winter Classic. "It would be invaluable preparation," Sophia explained. "He could give you specific feedback on what the judges will be looking for." The opportunity was too good to pass up, but the clinic fee was substantial, far more than Emma's grocery store savings could cover. When she hesitantly mentioned this to her grandfather, Joe disappeared into his bedroom and returned with an envelope. "Your Christmas present," he said gruffly, handing it to her, "was going to wait until the 25th, but you need it now." Inside, Emma found exactly the amount needed for the clinic fee. "Grandpa, I can't—" "Yes, you can," he interrupted. "I've been setting aside a little from each Social Security check. Figured you and that horse might need something special eventually." Tears sprang to Emma's eyes as she hugged him fiercely. "Thank you. We won't let you down." The holiday clinic was illuminating and humbling. Surrounded by polished riders on expensive horses, Emma felt acutely aware of her and Phoenix's limitations. The dressage judge, an austere German man named Herr Möller, didn't sugarcoat his critique. "The horse has unusual movement," he observed during their private session. "The compensation for old injury creates asymmetry. You must help him find better balance." Emma nodded, absorbing every word of advice, every suggested exercise. Unlike some of the other clinic participants who bristled at criticism, she welcomed it, knowing that each correction brought them one step closer to readiness. By the end of the second day, Herr Müller's assessment had softened somewhat. "There is heart in this horse," he told Emma, as she cooled Phoenix down after their final session. "And in Z Rider too, heart counts for much." On the drive home, Sophia, who had observed the entire clinic, offered her own assessment. "You two were the talk of the group, you know. Several people asked me about Phoenix's bloodlines." Emma smiled tiredly. "What did you tell them?" "That his breeding is less remarkable than his spirit and his owner's dedication." Sophia glanced at Emma. Herr Müller was impressed, by the way. He doesn't give compliments easily. "He called Phoenix asymmetrical," Emma pointed out. "He also said you both have heart. From him, that's the highest praise possible." Sophia's voice grew serious. "The Winter Classic won't be easy, Emma. You'll be competing against riders with far more experience and horses that haven't overcome the challenges Phoenix has. I don't want you to be disappointed if we don't win," Emma finished for her. "I won't be. That's not why we're doing this." "Why are you doing it then?" Emma was quiet for a moment, watching the winter landscape slide past the car window. "To prove that Phoenix deserves to be there," she finally said. "To show that a horse everyone discarded belongs in that arena just as much as any expensive show mount." Sophia nodded, satisfaction in her expression. "That's exactly the right answer." The final weeks before the competition passed in a flurry of focused training. Emma and Phoenix worked tirelessly on the specific movements required for their dressage test. Precise circles, clean transitions, proper bend on corners. Joe often stood in the arena with a copy of the test pattern, calling out the next movement so Emma could practice the entire sequence. Though Phoenix's injury remained evident in his slightly uneven stride, his overall movement had improved dramatically. He now carried himself with balance and purpose, his muscular development compensating for the lingering weakness in his right front leg. 3 days before the competition, a heavy snowstorm hit Oak Ridge, blanketing the farm in 8 inches of snow and knocking out power. Emma spent the night in the barn with Phoenix, monitoring the temperature and keeping him warm with extra blankets. "We might have to withdraw if the roads don't clear," Joe worried the next morning, trudging through drifts to bring Emma hot chocolate in a thermos. But by the following afternoon, the county plows had cleared the main roads, and the forecast for competition day showed clear skies. It seemed that Phoenix's journey to the Winter Classic would proceed after all. The night before the competition, Emma sat on a hay bale beside Phoenix's stall, too nervous to sleep. The gelding watched her with those intelligent eyes that had captured her heart at the auction nearly a year ago. "Remember when no one thought you'd ever be sound enough to ride?" she whispered, reaching through the bars to stroke his velvet muzzle. "Now look at us, about to compete in a real horse show." Phoenix nickered softly, pushing his nose into her palm as if to say, "I knew it all along." Emma smiled, peace settling over her despite the anxiety of the coming day. "Win or lose, you've already proven them all wrong. Tomorrow is just for us." As she headed back to the house, Emma paused to look up at the winter sky, stars brilliant in the clear night air. Whatever happened at the Winter Classic, she and Phoenix had already achieved the impossible. Everything else was just icing on the cake. The morning of the Winter Classic dawned cold but clear, the winter sun casting a pale golden light across the snow-covered landscape. Emma woke before her alarm, her stomach tight with nervous anticipation. Through her bedroom window, she could see the barn where Phoenix was stabled, already illuminated from within. Her grandfather must be up as well. By the time she dressed and hurried outside, Joe had already fed Phoenix his breakfast and was carefully grooming the chestnut's gleaming coat. "You should have woken me," Emma protested, taking the brush from his hands. Joe smiled. "Figured you needed the rest. Big day ahead." They worked together in companionable silence, preparing Phoenix for his competition debut. Emma followed the meticulous pre-competition checklist Sophia had provided: special feed at precisely the right time, careful leg wraps for the journey, the proper sequence of grooming products to make his coat shine under the arena lights. As Emma braided Phoenix's mane with trembling fingers, Joe appeared with a small wooden box. "Almost forgot," he said, opening the lid to reveal a gleaming brow band adorned with delicate silver leaves. "This was your mother's. Thought Phoenix might wear it today." Emma's eyes filled with tears as she touched the beautiful piece. "It's perfect, Grandpa. Mom would love knowing Phoenix was wearing it." Joe helped her attach it to Phoenix's bridle, his weathered hands gentle with the treasured heirloom. "There," he said, stepping back to admire the effect. "Now he looks like a proper champion." They loaded Phoenix into Mr. Peterson's borrowed trailer with practiced efficiency. The gelding walked up the ramp confidently, a far cry from the terrified animal who had balked at trailers after his auction experience. With Phoenix secure, they began the hour-long drive to the Winter Classic venue. The Northridge Equestrian Center was an impressive facility, not as grand as Winter's Equestrian, but far more sophisticated than the Oak Ridge Fairgrounds. Multiple heated indoor arenas, permanent stabling, and a bustling warm-up area full of competitors in polished boots and tailored show jackets. As Joe parked the truck, Emma spotted Sophia waiting for them near the competitor entrance, clipboard in hand. "Right on schedule," Sophia greeted them, helping guide them through check-in and directing them to Phoenix's assigned stall. "You're in Ring B, third class of the morning. That gives us about 2 hours for preparation." Emma nodded, trying to absorb the flurry of information while keeping Phoenix calm amid the unfamiliar surroundings. The activity around them was overwhelming. Horses being braided and tacked up, trainers giving last-minute instructions, riders in various states of nervous preparation. "Everyone looks so professional," Emma whispered to Sophia as they settled Phoenix into his temporary stall. "Maybe this was a mistake." "Nonsense," Sophia replied firmly. "Half of those professionals are quaking in their boots right now, just like you. Focus on Phoenix, not them." Following Sophia's advice, Emma concentrated on preparing Phoenix methodically, speaking to him soothingly throughout. When it came time to change into her show clothes, she ducked into the ladies' room and emerged in her mother's jacket, freshly pressed and altered to fit by Joe's careful hand. "Your mother's spitting image," Joe murmured when he saw her, quickly turning away to hide the moisture in his eyes. As their warm-up time approached, Emma led Phoenix to the designated area, where other competitors were already working their horses. She couldn't help noticing the sidelong glances and whispers. News of the rescue horse had evidently preceded them. "Ignore them," Sophia instructed, helping Emma mount with careful attention to Phoenix's still sensitive back. "Just like we practiced, 15 minutes of walk and trot, nothing more. Save his energy for the test." Phoenix seemed to sense the importance of the occasion. Despite the bustling activity around them, he remained focused on Emma, responding to her cues with the attentiveness that had characterized their partnership from the beginning. His stride, while still showing the slight unevenness from his old injury, was strong and purposeful. As they finished their warm-up, Emma spotted a familiar face near the arena entrance, Howard Thompson, watching them with undisguised interest. Beside him stood a slender girl about Emma's age, wearing an expensive show outfit and a discontented expression. His daughter Mia, Emma presumed. "Don't let them distract you," Sophia murmured, noticing Emma's gaze. "They're just here to watch. Focus on your test." Emma nodded, turning Phoenix away and concentrating on their final preparations. As the minutes ticked down to their competition time, Dr. Chen appeared, having driven separately to fulfill her promise to examine Phoenix on competition day. "How is he?" she asked, running expert hands down Phoenix's legs. "Strong," Emma replied. "Ready." Dr. Chen nodded, satisfied with her brief assessment. "Remember, the moment you feel anything unusual, anything at all, you pull up. No test is worth risking his recovery." "I promise," Emma assured her. All too soon, the announcer called Emma's name. With a final adjustment of her jacket and a deep breath, she guided Phoenix toward Ring B. Joe and Sophia flanked them until the gate, where Joe squeezed Emma's leg gently. "Ride like your mother," he said simply, with heart. The competition arena seemed enormous as Emma and Phoenix entered alone. Judges sat at tables positioned around the ring, clipboards ready. Spectators lined the rails, faces blurring together as Emma focused on the task ahead. She guided Phoenix to the center of the arena, halted, and saluted the head judge. The bell rang, signaling the start of their test. The next 4 minutes passed in a dreamlike state. Emma and Phoenix moved as one through the prescribed patterns, 20-meter circles, changes of direction, transitions between walk and trot. Everything they had practiced for months, now performed before critical eyes. Phoenix responded to each subtle cue, his ears flicking back occasionally to check with Emma, then forward again with determination. There were imperfections, a circle slightly too oval, a moment when Phoenix's stride faltered briefly on a corner. But overall, Emma felt the kind of harmony with her horse that she'd only read about in books. As they completed the final centerline and halt, tears of pride stung her eyes. The applause that followed surprised her with its enthusiasm. As they exited the arena, Sophia was beaming. "Beautiful," she said simply. "Absolutely beautiful." Joe said nothing, but his expression, pride mingled with something like wonder, spoke volumes. He helped Emma dismount and immediately began loosening Phoenix's girth, prioritizing the horse's comfort as they always did. After caring for Phoenix and ensuring he was comfortable in his stall, Emma finally allowed herself to think about their performance. "Do you think we placed?" she asked Sophia. "Scores should be posted soon," Sophia replied, not directly answering the question. "But regardless of the result, you showed everyone that Phoenix belongs in that arena." As they waited for results, Emma was surprised to see Howard Thompson approaching, his daughter trailing behind with a sullen expression. "Ms. Hartley," Thompson greeted her. "An impressive performance. Your horse has progressed remarkably since the Harvest Festival." "Thank you," Emma replied cautiously, remembering their last encounter. "I'd like to introduce my daughter, Mia," he continued, gesturing to the girl beside him. "She competed in the junior division earlier." Mia nodded coolly, her gaze fixed on Phoenix rather than Emma. "Is it true he was bought from a slaughter truck?" "Mia," her father warned. "It's okay," Emma assured him. "Yes, Phoenix was headed for slaughter when I found him at the auction. No one else wanted him because of his injury." Mia's expression shifted subtly. "And you rehabilitated him yourself?" "With help," Emma clarified, nodding towards Sophia, Joe, and Dr. Chen, who had joined them. It was a team effort. Something like respect flickered in Mia's eyes. Before she could respond, an announcement came over the loudspeaker. "Results for Novice Division Test A are now posted at the secretary's booth." Emma's heart leapt to her throat. "Excuse me," she murmured, hurrying toward the booth with Joe and Sophia close behind. A crowd had already gathered around the results sheet. Emma had to stand on tiptoes to see over shoulders. When she finally spotted Phoenix's number on the list, her breath caught. 3rd place, out of 12 competitors. "We placed," she whispered in disbelief, turning to Joe. "Grandpa, we got 3rd. Joe's weathered face broke into a rare, wide smile. "That's my girl." Sophia squeezed her shoulder. "Well deserved, especially considering the caliber of this division." The award ceremony was a blur of emotion. Standing in the arena with Phoenix as they received their yellow ribbon, Emma could hardly believe they had come so far. From a broken-down auction reject to a competition horse earning recognition among peers, it seemed impossible, yet here they were. As they exited the ring, ribbon proudly displayed on Phoenix's bridle, Howard Thompson was waiting. This time his expression was thoughtful rather than calculating. "Ms. Hartley, I owe you an apology," he began, surprising Emma. "When we last spoke, I viewed your horse purely as a commodity, a rehabilitation success to be acquired. I failed to recognize the true value of what you've created together." Emma nodded cautiously, unsure where this was heading. "I still believe Phoenix has exceptional potential," Thompson continued. "But I now understand that his greatest potential lies with you." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Which is why I'd like to make a different kind of offer." "Mr. Thompson," Emma began, ready to refuse again. "Please hear me out," he interrupted gently. "I'm not offering to buy Phoenix. I'm offering to sponsor you both." Emma blinked in confusion. "Sponsor?" "Yes. My company, Thompson Industries, sponsors several promising young riders. We provide funds for training, competition fees, transportation, whatever is needed to help talented combinations reach their potential." Joe stepped forward protectively. "And what would you expect in return?" "Nothing that would separate this remarkable team," Thompson assured him. "Simply the honor of having our name associated with their journey. Phoenix's story has already captured public attention. Imagine what could be accomplished with proper funding behind you." Emma's mind raced. The financial strain of Phoenix's care and competition expenses had been a constant worry. Even with her job at the grocery store and Joe's careful budgeting, maintaining a competition horse would eventually become unsustainable without additional resources. "I'd need to think about it," she said carefully. "Of course," Thompson nodded. "Take all the time you need. The offer stands." He handed her a business card. "My direct number is on the back. When you're ready to discuss details, call me." As Thompson walked away, Sophia moved to Emma's side. "Sponsorship is no small thing," she remarked. "It could open doors that would otherwise remain closed." "But we'd be tied to him," Emma worried. "What if he still sees Phoenix as just an investment?" "Any sponsor has business interests," Sophia acknowledged. "But a good sponsorship benefits both parties." Thompson recognized something today that he missed before. Phoenix's value isn't in what he is, but in who he is with you. Joe cleared his throat. "Whatever you decide, it's your choice, Emma. You've earned that right." Emma stroked Phoenix's neck, the yellow ribbon a bright splash of color against his gleaming coat. "I'll think about it. But not today. Today is just for celebrating how far we've come." As they loaded Phoenix into the trailer for the journey home, Emma paused to look back at the bustling competition venue. 6 months ago, she couldn't have imagined standing in that arena, let alone placing among experienced competitors. Yet Phoenix had made it possible. His courage, his trust, his determination to defy the limitations others had placed on him. The drive home was peaceful, Phoenix traveling contentedly in the trailer, occasional soft nickers indicating his presence. As they crested the final hill overlooking the Hartley farm, Emma felt a profound sense of rightness. Whatever the future held, sponsorship opportunities, more competitions, new challenges, this would always be where their journey began and where their bond was forged. That evening, after Phoenix was settled in his stall with extra hay and his ribbon displayed proudly on the door, Emma sat with her grandfather on the porch steps. The winter stars spread across the sky in a glittering canopy, the same stars that had witnessed Phoenix's first painful steps on the farm, and now his triumph in the show ring. "Do you think Mom would be proud?" Emma asked softly. Joe was quiet for a long moment. "Your mother believed in second chances," he finally said. "She believed that every life had value, even when others couldn't see it." He put his arm around Emma's shoulders. "She would be prouder than words can say." Emma leaned against him, the weight of the day's emotions finally catching up with her. He wasn't just a project, you know. From the beginning, there was something special about Phoenix. "I know," Joe nodded. "Turns out there was something special about you too." In the barn, Phoenix nickered softly, as if in agreement. The sound floated through the night air, not the frightened, pain-filled cry of a broken-down auction horse, but the confident call of a champion who had found his purpose and his person. The yellow ribbon caught the moonlight, a symbol of their journey together. But the true victory wasn't measured in ribbons or recognition. It was in the transformation of two souls who had saved each other, found strength in vulnerability, and shown the world that sometimes the most valuable things are those that others discard. As Emma drifted to sleep that night, Phoenix's ribbon hanging beside her mother's old trophies, she realized that the ending wasn't really an ending at all. It was simply the close of one chapter in a story that would continue to unfold, a story of second chances, unlikely champions, and the extraordinary bond between a girl and the horse that everyone else had rejected. For Phoenix, rising from the ashes of abandonment, and for Emma, emerging from the shadows of loss, the journey was just beginning. Together they would write the next chapter, one hoofbeat at a time,